Hey, what's up? So this video will be a little bit long. We're gonna create a validation form for registering users in a specific website. We will be using Redux Toolkit, Formik. We will be focusing on Formik and another library called Yip. I think it's called Yip for validation. And for the UI, I will be using React Suite and Lodash. So I'm going to show you how we can use all of these to create a validation form for registering users. We will be using asynchronous validations. We will fetch data from specific API. We'll create like password confirmation form and stuff like that. So before we start, this is the app that I generated using create React app, and this is it running. So the only thing I did is like this. So npx create, npx create React app, call it anything, for example, moon, then template Redux. This will give you a React app with the Redux boilerplate configured for you, and they will be using Redux Toolkit. So after you do this, we need to install these packages now. So go to formik.org, then to get started, you will see the download here at the bottom. So let's go and download this. So npm install Formik. Now for React Suite, go to guide, use and create React app. So npm install React Suite. By the way, you can just install multiple packages by adding space between them. And now for Yip, you'll just put Yip here. Now the final one is Lodash, and that will be it. So let's start by cleaning up the project. I will remove this counter folder, and I will create an index.js, and I will use this just to export anything from the features. I like to do this. And here the register feature, and inside of it, the register component, the slice, and another index.js to export anything from this package or from this module. So now I'll type RACP, which will give me this. And this comes from this extension called this one. ES7 React Redux snippets. It's really nice. I recommend it. This will give me this boilerplate. I will remove the props and here and also this one. And for format, I'll use prettier like this. Now, let's also go to our app.js. Let's remove these. Remove the app's CSS. Remove the logo. We don't need it also, and remove everything from here. Let's just return like h1 hi, just to make sure everything works fine. Now let's go back to our React Suite documentation. As you can see, you need to import these CSS files. So import them here, and the default is white theme, but I will use the dark. And now if you go to our browser, okay, we have an error because in our app, when we configure our reducers, we forgot to remove the counter reducer. Okay, now it should work. This should work. So this is it. Okay, so this works. So to start, I will import from Formik. I think it's like this. Let me just look at the code. I have the code on a different screen. I don't want to mess up anything. So, like this. So for Formik, you can destruct the Formik component, and so I'll import from the React Suite a bunch of other components. The first one is the container, and I will use that as the parent for everything. And I will give it a style of a height of 100 view height and display of legs. and inside our index.js I will give the body and the HTML and in a height of 100 view height. Okay, now I will also import the Flexbox grid component. This of course uses a Flexbox behind the scenes to organize my component. So the line will be in the middle, the justify will be center, and style I will give it a height of 100%. Now for each item inside this Flexbox, it will be the Flexbox item component, and I think now we can remove this. I'll just put Formik here, and Formik accepts a bunch of properties or props, sorry. The first one is the initial value for the form. So I'll be using a username, input, an email, input, password, input, and password confirm, and this will be also an empty string. Now on submit, this will be a function that accepts the values. So let's just console log them like this, and here we can actually just put a render props, which is, usually when you pass stuff like this, for example, if I passed a bunch of these will be the children for this component, right? But if you pass a function, this will be called a render props. Or it will assume that you are passing a function here, and this function will actually accept a bunch of stuff. But yeah, if you want to Google about it, this is called render props. So it needs to return like some components. So this will be form, and on submit, I will destruct from the values that will be passed to this function the submit. It's called hand submit, yeah. And I will just be adding a bunch of normal inputs. You don't need this, like this. Now the name is important. The name should be the same thing you use here. So the first one will be username, and the placeholder will be username. And on change, you can use the handle change here, and this actually accepts the original event from the DOM. So you can just put this here and it will work. Let me format the code, and let's type on a player, and we will get also the handle player function. And by the way, validations will happen on a change and on a player, so that's why you will put these two here. So let's just duplicate this 4 times. The second one will be the email. The placeholder will also be email. Same stuff here, and username, or sorry, this one will be password. This one will be password. What did I type? Confirm, like this. And placeholder will be password confirm. But of course, we need to add the type. So this one will have a type of text, type of email, type of password, and the last one as well. Oops. At the end, we need to have a button. So I'm gonna just import the React Suite button. I'm gonna show you how we can use the React Suite inputs with this, but for now, let's just stick with this. So before closing the form, submit, the type of this should be submit as well, and disabled. No, let's just forget about this for now. So if you go here, nothing will happen because we need, of course, to import this register inside our app. So let's go here and export the default export. as register. So usually in React components, we will put like the component as the exported default thing from the file. And like this, I'm renaming that to a register. And here, I will just export everything from the index file from the register. So any place in my project, I can just type, hey, go to the features, and everything exported from the index file here will be available. So I can go to my app and just import from features like this. And if you give this features an alias, for example, if I can type this, this will be really nice. I think if you go to, I really can't remember, so just stick with this. I think it's called JS config, but yeah, as you can see, we have it as GBS code understand what we did. Let me put another container here, React suite container. So now hit refresh. So as you can see, we have all of these. So what we did in our submit, we just console log the values. So let's try to see that. Okay, this should be test@gmail.com. Submit. When we use the inputs from React Suite, this will be dark so we can see them. But as you can see, we have the values as we type them here, which is very nice. I mean, this behaves like reactive forms in Angular, which I was a big fan of. And it's really nice to see a library in React that behaves a little bit in similar way. So yeah, I really like Formik. But for now, let's just improve this by using the input component. And let's just select all of these four and use the input. So as you can see, this will look like this now. Let's just improve the style by adding, I mean, it's a simple thing, but let's go to our index, CSS, MB20, margin bottom 20 pixels. And let's go to each input. And let's just add a class name, margin bottom 20. So yeah, we have this now, which is nice. Now, if you notice something, or so I think I need to refresh. Yeah, it works. But just remember that these, I was actually going to show you something. So if I type this, so val, and let's just console log the val. As you can see, the first argument for the callback function on a change for this input will be the value itself. The second one will be the event. So now if I type, you will see the event, and the only change, or the handle change, sorry, will actually accept the event, not the value. So if I pass the value, this should not work. I'm not sure why it's working now. It was not working with me earlier, but I guess that's fine. So what will happen if I hit submit? Yeah, you won't see the value, I think. Yeah, you won't see the value. You can't see this one. Let me, yep, like this. So as you can see, we can see the value. I think the reason is because I need to pass the event itself. So now, as you can see, you need to always pass the event, not the value. So we only care about the second argument, so we can add this as an underscore, which usually linters also understand, because it means that I'm ignoring the first argument. So we need to do the same thing for everything here. So underscore event. can just copy paste, right? Yeah. And now, because this should be something at gmail.com. Now submit, we should see our values here, which is very nice. Now for validation, I mean, we can use, in Formik, they have some like ways that you can use or build your own validation like this, but I would recommend using something like yep, and I'm gonna show you how we can do it right now. So first thing, before we actually define our component, let's define a variable called schema, and this will be equal, or before that, let's import yep. So import star as yep from yep, and our schema would be equal to yep.object, and this will be then dot shape, and this will be an object. So first one is the email. This will be yep.string .email .required. So this will be email, a string, then required. So it's very easy. Now password, if you ever use any validation library, this will behave the same. So now string would be required as well. You can add max and min, but as soon as you will see how we can deal with these, you can do anything you want. I'm just going to show you the stuff that it will take some time researching how to do it. Now the confirm password, this is one of them, and the asynchronous validation. So yep dot, I think I'm just copying the code from another screen, then a string, then required. So this is the same one as the above, but to tell yep that this confirm password should be equal to this one, I will put one of, I will give it an array. So yep dot ref. So I'm referencing the same field here, which is the password. At the end, or the second argument will be the error message. So passwords must match. This is what I did. So the username will leave it to the end. We will do an API call to find if this username is unique or not. But this is it for now. Now we need to go to the Formik here and add I think validation schema will be schema like this. And let's go and check it out. Like this here. So secret. As you can see, if these two passwords are not equal, we can't submit. But if they are equal, I'm using secret, or I type secret, we can actually submit, which is very nice. So you can't actually submit unless the form is valid. And to reflect this on the submit button, we can actually get the is valid from here, and just put it as the disabled props here. So disabled will be if not valid. And let's go and check it out. So as you can see, I can't submit unless these two are equal. But of course, we are not finished. We need to add some UX elements so the user can know which form is wrong. So yeah, the first thing, let me just look at the code so I can remember. Let's add the border red when the form is, or when the input is not correct, right? So first one, let's go to the email and let's extract from here, from the render props, the errors. And the errors, let me just console log them so you can see. So as you can see, they are now empty, but as soon as I remove this and check them out, you see that the password confirm, passwords must match. And I think we also have the touch. And this will give us an object with the same shape as the errors. So as you can see, we can see which input have been touched by the user. So all of them, in this case, let's refresh. By default, nothing have been changed, and nothing have been touched, and no errors. So let's put this. As you can see, we have touched as the email, and this is the error messages we have. Yeah, so we can actually use this to display some like UI stuff to tell the user which input has some wrong information. So style would be equal border color would be, I think I typed red. Yeah. So border color will be red if the email dot errors, sorry, if errors dot email contains anything. So this will be red, else I will use the default color. So let's go check it out. Yeah, sorry, I am on the username input. I need to be here. So as you can see now, the user, now this will be red. Another cool thing, there is in this library a component called Whisper, which is very nice. So it will be like this. So we can display actually a tooltip above the input if there is an error, and it's very easy. But this is why I like this package. It makes a lot of stuff much more easier. So we can do this, I believe. Yes. Now the trigger for this whisper will be none, nothing, and if it's open, this will be if we have inside our errors an email, and the errors dot email sorry, and if we touched our email, the message, is it message? No, just like this, the speaker now. The speaker will be another component. It's called Tooltip. This will be the errors.email, the error message for the email. And you can cut this, put it here, and the whole input, you can put it inside of it as a children. So now we can see a red border and this message, which is very nice. This error message is from this tooltip. I think they need to update some stuff. But yeah, you don't need to worry about it. Yeah, so we need to do the same thing for the password and the password confirmation. So let's copy this, put it here. Just like this, and this will be for the password like this, and I need to copy this as well, put it here. So by default it's nothing, but as soon as I touch it and go out, it will tell me that this password is a required field. I think I need also to put here and touched, because as you can see, I didn't even touch the email, but we have the border red because validation will happen for all the forms for on Player and on change. So each time I do anything on any input, all the validation will run again. So that's why I need to also check for touched like this. So now I can only, yeah, all the origin message will only happen in the password, which is very good. So we need to do the same thing for the password confirmation. And this will be password confirm, and my bad, this should be email, password, sorry, and touched. So if we touch the password and it has errors, display a border of red. The same logic will be for every one of them. Password confirm. So yeah, let's refresh, start from the start. So this doesn't matter. Now put any email, it will work. Remove it, won't work. So this will work by default. Now if I type anything that is not the same one as this email, as this password, it will fail. Now secret, and it will work, which is very nice. I guess this is the basics of it. I'm looking at the previous code. Yeah, maybe something annoying that if I did hear anything wrong. Oh no, yeah, this is very nice. So password does not match. I thought it will put the name of the key at the beginning. So this is very nice. So now we can come into the username, or maybe, before this, let's just hook this with the Redux. So let me go to the slice and import from Redux Toolkit the create slice and const register create a slice, give it a name, will be register. Initial state will have name, sorry, user name, email, password, and the password confirm key. So this is just to show you how we can hook up these two together. Maybe in some case you need the values from the form to exist in the store for another component, maybe in a very far away in the tree. So now the reducers, I will define only one reducer. I will make it generic. So update val. This is the state, which will point to this part of the state, the whole state. This is slice. So this state variable will point to this slice from the store. And I will destruct the payload. Inside the payload, I will have value and key. This should also calls a function. Now state, access the key and just assign it to the value. As simple as that. So now let's just export const this from the action. Oops. Register the actions. So each reducer you define, Redux Toolkit will generate an action creator function with the same name, which is very nice. So export default the register.reducer. And let's go to our store and app and let's import that. So import, go back from the features. We need to actually, to make this work, we need to go to inside our index and let's just export from the slice the default as the register reducer and the update file like this. So now we can go here and remember inside our index here we're exporting everything from the index file inside the register. And we can go here and do the register reducer. So our slice will be called register and this is our reducer. Okay, so now first thing, let's update the value, then we can read from the store. So let's go here and import from React Redux. So I'm gonna use hooks. That's the recommended way currently. So const dispatch. This will give you a reference to the dispatch function, and this reference won't change, which is nice. And now const update store. This will be value key or key value. Key value. We will use the dispatch function to dispatch. Yeah, from the slice, we need to go and get the update value. Yeah, thinking about it, we don't need to export this one here, right? This function is the only one we'll use that. I mean, you can't do that, but we're not doing that here. So key that like this. And I'm gonna do this here. I'm gonna pass the key. Or, you know, I can just put two arguments like this. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So this will be username, the key, and the value will be first argument. So I'm gonna return this to val. And this is the email. So I need to put this here and return this to val. And this will be email. Yeah, the same thing also for the password. I know there is a lot of duplication. Pretty sure you can find a way to unify all of this, but let's just continue. And this will be the password confirmation. So this should be it. Let's go here and check our Redux. Unify this. So this is some, yeah, it's updating, but this is something not that good. As you can see, on each keystroke, we are updating the whole store again. In a very complex application, this could be expensive and it will make your app slow. So there is a very nice way to handle this kind of stuff. Imagine if I can combine all of these somehow into maybe 1 or 2 calls. This will be very good. There's a library that does that. It's called use-debounce. I mean, it will do the same thing as the debounce function from Lodash, but this is made for Redux. We are gonna use the debounce function in a moment, but to use it, sorry, this one is for React, not Redux. But to use that logic in React component, in React functional component, you will use this library called use-debounce. Yeah. So sorry if that was confusing. So just to recap, if you want to debounce a function in a functional component in React, you will use this package, which provide you a debounced, a way to debounce your functions. This is actually what we need. So remember, in our case, we have all of these calls. Imagine if we can just reduce them or debounce them into 1 or 2 calls. And debounce, by the way, works let me show it. Let me just try to explain it to you in a brief way. So imagine each brackets are a call to the same function. So in debounce, yeah, and it's the same call to the same function, and each one of them have like an interval of 1 second. So each 1 second, I will call the same function again. So like this. So let's say I'm calling it here 10 times. I didn't count it, but let's just say that. In use-debounce, if I tell it, hey, debounce this function and give it a time of 1 second, it will say each time the previous call and the next call have a difference of time of 1 second, this new function will be called. So it will keep monitoring the time between each call, and if that time is equal or above the time that you specified, the next call will be executed actually, and the previous one won't. So I think in this context, if this was like this, and if I give it like a debounce value of 1 second, only this call will be called. Only this invoke will be called. Yeah, the last one, which is interesting. I hope this was clear. Yeah, so we need to actually install this one because I forgot to install it. You will see if my explanation was confusing, you will see it in a moment with Redux. Let me look at the code. I forgot how to import it. Yeah, okay. So import from use-debounce, I use debounce callback. And we're gonna update this function. So just wrap this function with use-debounce callback and give it now a time, which in my case, I'll give it 250 milliseconds. And I think that should be it, right? We don't need to do anything else. Yeah, this should be it. So let's now go and test how little this will dispatch actions. So go to Redux. So hit refresh. So as you can see, I typed as fast as I can. Only 4 actions have been dispatched. Let's say I'm just a normal user, so test@gmail.com. I think this is much more efficient than just dispatching the action on each keystroke, which is very nice. So yeah, that will be it. This is for the updating the state. So let's now read the state and initialize our form with that value. So let's go to our slice and let's go to email. This will be this, and secret will be the password. Format the code and refresh. Of course, the values won't be here. So let's try to select them. So from the active Redux, import the use selector. And here, so const email to be equal to use selector. And let's define our selectors here, so they will always have the same reference and won't be defined on each re-render for the component. So this one will be called select email. It will accept the state as the first argument and state.register .email. It's really good way or good thing to automize your selectors so they won't cause re-renders. in case if you are returning an object and one field only changed, or maybe nothing changed, and you are not using shallow equality function. But yeah, just it's a good thing to automate your selectors. So select password, this will be password like this, and now oops, yeah, duplicate this. I have a new keyboard, that's why I can't type. And the only thing you need to do is to put this here and this one here, and that's it. I think I typed this in a wrong way, so I have something wrong in my code. So let's try to console log this. I think I did something wrong. Not sure what it is or not. I think we can destruct the initial status or initial values, sorry. Let's console log that. So it's actually being, yeah, it's actually being available here, or it is actually in the state, but it's not reflecting in the UI. I think that's because, yeah, my bad. We need to have value in each input, or yeah, in each input, even if this was the initial input or the native input in the browser. This will be from values, I think. Yeah, from values. Values.username. And for the email, we will have the email, and this will be the password. This will be the password confirm. Yeah, as you can see now, the data from Redux have been loaded inside our phone, and let's open that. And each time we change, it will actually be reflected there, which is very nice. So it's like we hooked up Redux with this form. Now any other component needs this data here can easily access it. So now the last thing is sending an HTTP request for validating something. And we'll be doing that for the email. Let me just, for the username. So first thing, there is this API called, I think you know it, the JSON placeholder. And if you go, I'll put a link in the description. If you go to /users, you will see this array of users as a JSON. It's free to use, which is very nice. And so let's cut this and define a validation for the username. So yep dot string now dot test to run a specific function. Username, this is the name of the validation. Now this is the error message. We have this username. I'm checking if this username is unique or not. So, and this will be a function that accepts, or I will make it an asynchronous function. It accepts the input value, and this just await. I will use the fetch API, and I will await again the returned value from converting the response into JSON, because fetch does not know the response type, so I need to convert it into the proper type. So maybe .xml, something. I think .text also exists. Yeah, .text and .json. So I'm awaiting converting to JSON. First await is for the fetch. Second await is for the promise to the JSON. Now what I can do, I think, yeah, I will find that user. mean, if you are developing the API for yourself, you can just return a true or false flag, but in this case, we are returning an array of users. So I'm going to destruct the username. And just to check if the username equal to the input value, and this input value comes actually from here. Okay. So if we find that, so if you find the user, return false, which means this is not valid, else return true. Find will return undefined if it did not find anything. So this is it, and nothing wrong with this. So let's go and do the same stuff for the input, for the username input. So let's just copy this. So the style, the border will be red if the errors.username, we have errors and the input is touched. I think the second thing will be, yeah, the whisper. We'll have the same stuff, but for username. And remember, the error for the username will come from the second argument here. We have this user. Yeah. So let's go to the network tab and see what will happen when we start actually typing. So let me type my name. So in each keystroke, we will send an HTTP request, but since this username does not exist in the array returned from here, everything is fine. So let's get this username and put it here. As you can see, we have this username. But the annoying thing is this will be activated on each keystroke. So as you can see, that's not good. I'm spamming the API, which is very bad. And not only this, on each input. Remember that on a change and on a player will activate our changes. So I don't recommend doing this. The alternative way, I think this is the best way in my opinion. I'm going to show you two ways to solve this. First one, validate on a change, give it false for the Formik component. So this will stop validation on a change. So as you can see, I can type as much as I can, nothing will happen. The validation will only happen when I go outside the input, only on a player, which is very good. The same thing applies for other components, so nothing will happen now. As soon as I go out, the email validation will apply, and we will validate this one again, which is this is how the library behaves. But this is much more better than sending the request on each keystroke. And in my opinion, this is the way I will go with it if I was using this Formik library, which is very nice. I think this is fine to send maybe, yeah, when you validate each form, if you send this, I think this is very fine. But another way you might think about is debouncing this validation. So I'm going to show you how I did this, but I need to look at the code. So first thing, I'm going to use the debounce function from Lodash. So I'm going to import that. But just before I start, I recommend that you do this. So stop on a change validation and just do it on a player. So from Lodash, import the debounce function. And this will actually change. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna accept the input value, of course, like usual, and I'm gonna return what's going on. Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah, so return your promise, and I'm gonna use the resolve function, and I'm gonna here call a debounce function, and I will pass to it the resolve function from the returned promise of this function, which in another way saying, hey, I am passing the resolve control for the first promise to anything in the call stack that happened after it. So in a specific condition, if that applies, just call the first resolve function that I passed to you. So this is a very common approach that you will see with the promises. So if you're calling so many, like if you're doing or if you're dealing with so many promises and you need to like resolve the first one of them, you will keep passing the same resolve function to the, you can say, nested promises. So this is very common technique that I see all the time. So I'm going to use that here. So first thing, I'm going to define a function called do we have the user, and this will accept the resolve function, which will pass from this promise and the input value. I'm going to use the fetch API like this. And .then, now we have our data, our array of users. Let's do the same exact thing. But remember, we are not returning, this is wrong. We should not return, yeah, but we are not returning, we are using the resolve function, which is the same resolve function passed from here. Now we need to debounce this function. So const, do we have the user debounced? This is what I would call it. So debounce, do we have the user, and give it 250 milliseconds. And now call this one here and pass to it, of course, the resolve function from the promise that we return and the import value. And by the way, yep will actually resolve this value, and based on it, it will mark this input as valid or not. So it will actually detect that and resolve it. So format the code, and you can actually comment this out, and this should do it. Hopefully no errors. So as you can see, it got actually delayed or debounced, and the input still works on a change. So I will not go outside this input. So I will stay here, as you can see, and this still works. Let's give it, I think, the name that actually is used. This one, as you can see, it still works. But the thing is, now I think everything is now debounced. No, only this one. But yeah, I think you got the point. You'll need to use the debounce function to debounce the validation, and you will do it like this. But just like I said, I don't see any value from doing this. You can just have the validation on a player, and that's it. This is how usually you want it. Yeah, I think that's it. So there is a link in the description for this code if you want to check it out. And I hope this was useful. This is the first time I'm doing something like this. Yeah, that's it. Bye-bye.